Salutations, spooks, spirits, and specters, and welcome back to a little bit more Corpse Party Book of Shadows. This time it is Chapter 5, which had a whole mess load of bad ends. 3 of which I did get during my playthrough, but here are the ones that I missed out on.
針金とタコ糸でなんとかなるかもしれないな。太工棒って柄じゃないがうまくいってくれよ。よし、引っかかった。手応えからするとそう重いものじゃなさそうだ。針金の角度が浅かったか。いっそ思い切って下に降りた方が早いかもしれないな。だが危険かもしれないし、どっちの方法を選ぶべきか。くそ、こうしている間にも眉の身に何かあったら俺は。下に降りてあれを拾って戻ってくれ。簡単なことだ。
As long as I proceeded slowly and cautiously, I thought I'd be fine. First things first, I needed to figure out how deep this gap went.
深さは糸のここまでだから4メートル強ってところか。思ったより深いな。
My height is 178 centimeters, so with arms outstretched, I'd be about 2 meters or so. Which meant if I grabbed onto the ledge with my hands and lowered myself down, I'd only have another 2 meters to fall. And that seemed entirely reasonable. It was notably less of a drop than one would face when jumping from a second-story veranda, for example.
問題は登る時だが、その辺の教室から机や椅子をいくつか運んできて先に穴に落としておこう。
A little stacking could easily give me 1.5 meters of extra height, I thought. And that should get me plenty close to the edge of the hole. I'd probably be able to reach it and grab on with just a single jump.
最悪の場合、1時間後にはすぐそこの玄関に田口さんが戻ってくるから、大声で呼べば助けてくれるだろう。これでよし。行くか。ぐっ足がくじいたかもしれない。地面が床みたいに平らじゃないことくらい予想できたろうに。
Well, at least I could finally find out what the item was that I'd seen from above. It was like a small notebook. No, I recognized it. This was a student ID. In fact, it seemed to be a Kisaragi Academy student ID.
これは眉の学生証。なんでこんなところに。まさか上からここに落ちて。 眉いるのか眉。
There were a considerable number of dead bodies down here with me. Most of them were full-on skeletons who seemed like they'd been here for ages, but a handful of them looked like they may have just died a few hours ago.
こんなに人が。それもほとんど俺と同世代の。一体何が行われているんだこの学校では。
I briefly scanned the bodies of the departed in the dim, unnatural light that filtered in from above, and found one that was wearing very familiar clothes. This was definitely the uniform of Kisaragi Academy High School. I was horrified. Mayu, please, tell me it's not you.
院長。おい、篠崎。
Both of Ayumi Shinozaki's eyes were wide open, but she wasn't looking at anything in particular. Those eyes weren't seeing anything at all anymore.
篠崎。なんで誰がこんな。落ち着け。冷静になるんだ。篠崎は死んでいる。これは死体だ。そこら中にある死体の一つだ。そう、篠崎の形をした肉の塊だ。ものなんだ。くそ、篠崎には岸沼がついていると思ったのに、あの単細胞は何をやってるんだ。あいつがどこかで油を売ってるから篠崎がこんなことに。こんな。遺族のために何か持って行った方がいいよな。こんなに血で汚れた制服はダメだな。遺族が動揺する。下着なんて論外だ。髪留めのゴム紐はありふれている。もう少し篠崎の個性が伝わるような。委員長のろうそくはここにはないか。髪の毛とかいいはずならいいだろう。ハサミがないからそうだな。仕方ない。歯で噛み切るか。人の髪の毛ってのは意外と丈夫なもんだな。綺麗に切れない。別の部分ならどうだ。例えば 爪とか。待てよ。いや、舌がいいな。いいよな、篠崎。遺族のためだ。口を開けてくれ。ああ、舌がないじゃないか。畜生、誰がふざけるな。これじゃ俺が仕方ない。歯で妥協するか。くそ。抜けない。指で引っ張ったくらいじゃ。あれ、目の前が真っ黒。黒黒前、どこだ。お前も俺
I guess he got taken by the Darkening.
呪い殺してやる。
What happened? Did I pass out?
起きて。
眉。いや、もっと幼い。誰だ。
お兄ちゃん、起きて。
ここは。
おはよう、お兄ちゃん。ここはね、私のおもちゃ箱。
The young girl thrust her face so close to mine that our noses practically touched. She was smiling from ear to ear. She looked to be in about first or second grade, with long black hair and a clean, cute, almost dainty countenance. After my brief impression, however, I quickly turned my head away. She was uncomfortably close, literally breathing down my neck, and her breath, it smelled of blood, of death and decay, and fatty oils, and smoke. It smelled of chemicals and antiseptic. It was a very, very unpleasant potpourri.
誰だ君は。
嬉しくなっちゃう。 これはって聞かないんだね。ここに来た人はみんなまず驚いて泣き出すのに。
The little girl began backing away from me, her shoulders still shaking in a soundless chuckle. I knew exactly what she meant. It would be entirely reasonable to ask what's going on here. Even at a glance, I could tell this room was not good. The floors and wall were caked in blood as thick as mud. Buckets of body parts were strewn all about, and eviscerated corpses were stacked everywhere. And that was just what I could see at a glance. As for me, I was bound to a chair against one of the walls, not with ropes, but with chains.
私の名前は篠崎幸子。
俺をどうするつもりだ。殺すのか。
どうしよっかな。これから考える。先にこれで遊ぶから。
Just as she said the word else, she brought her hand down onto the nearby table in a slapping motion, and it made contact with someone. It was a girl, bound by her hands and feet, and Sachiko's slap was aimed squarely at her thigh. Her uniform suggested that she was in high school, and she was wearing glasses, giving her a rather stern, serious appearance. I could hear the sound of chattering teeth and see her chest rising and falling rapidly and erratically, suggesting she was paralyzed with fear.
名前はね、浦部恵美さん。
At the sound of her own name being read aloud from her student ID name tag, the girl let out a single whimper. やめて、お願い。
ダメー。お姉ちゃんは今からとびきり痛いことをされます。惨めったらしい顔や命乞いをして見せてくださいね。やだ。冗談だよね。だって私何も。うるさい。気が散る。
Sachiko swung her hand downward into Emi's face. I realized only after impact that there was a scalpel in it. A sloppy, uncontrolled incision was made from the corner of her mouth all the way to her ear. なんてね。ごめんね、痛かった？本気じゃないからまだあまり痛がらないで。これからもっと痛くなるのよ。Sachiko produced a pair of durable sewing scissors from a rollaway shelf nearby and began expertly cutting all the way up to Emi's school uniform. Then she set down the scissors and produced a full-sized farming sickle in their place. It looked well worn, with soil and rust sticking liberally to the blade. After brandishing it for a moment, Sachiko positioned it over Emi's abdomen.
夢だよ、夢だ。目が覚めるかどうか自分で確かめろ。
Sachiko slowly shifted her focus from Emi's abdomen to the area just below her rib cage. Emi's body began spasming, her spinal muscles contracting in a decidedly unnatural manner. Gasps and screams mixed with sounds of vomit and incontinence.
いい顔になってきたね。できるじゃないか。それだよ、それ。
Without even wiping the drool from her mouth, Sachiko tossed the sickle aside and simply began digging into Emi's wounds with her bare hands. The sound of tiny hands manipulating internal organs was disgustingly similar to that of a sopping wet rag squelching spilled oatmeal off a hardwood floor. The noises escaping Emi's mouth didn't even sound like they were coming from a human being anymore. I could see her face in profile now, and despite the gastric juices and vomit and blood and contortions of unbearable agony, it wasn't a disagreeable sight. This was a girl not far from death. She was trying her hardest to fight it, but the facts were the facts. She was going to die, and she knew it. Against this fate, she was completely and utterly helpless. She was doomed already in both body and soul. This hapless struggle had a certain sensual quality to it. No, it was even purer than that. This was a truly beautiful sight.
本来に
Sachiko, who at this point buried her head in Emi's exposed organs, withdrew it and directed this question at me, her mouth still full of flesh. Everything from her nose down was dyed red and dripping with blood.
本当にいい顔になってきたじゃないか。
She swallowed whatever she'd bitten out of Emi's insides, then turned to face me. Not just face me, actually, but stare at me. Stare into me with unwavering, unblinking eyes. I suddenly became aware of my own erratic breathing. It wasn't fear, though, but an almost animalistic reaction. It was coarse and primal, and I'd unconsciously thrust my chest forward toward Emi. I think I may have been smiling.
どうだ、お前もやってみるかい？
Don't be ridiculous. It's like she's making fun of me. She shouldn't even have to ask. His expression never once changed. He was like some kind of twisted, life-sized doll with one face. No doubt the face he'd be wearing when he killed me. The last face I'd ever see. What could I do? What options did I have?
そうだ、アルコールランプ。ヒデ、早く。
With adrenaline's help, I managed to get the matchbox out of my bag, withdraw a match, and even unsuccessfully strike it a few times, all in an instant. Finally, I got a flame, but it wasn't fast enough. The expressionless giant's hammer struck me full force in my right knee. I had nothing left to lose at this point, so I just threw the alcohol lamp haphazardly. It struck the expressionless man's raised hammer and shattered. A sizable amount of methanol spilled from the shards all over his face and chest, and there, thankfully, it burst right into flames. The man's entire torso was immediately engulfed. The hammer fell from his hand. I did it. Burn slowly, you bastard.
ざまあみろ。エミとフクロイの仇だ。この人殺し。何よ。来ないで。早く死んでよ。
His flaming hand grabbed my wrist. I could feel my skin instantly blistering, and then, mere moments later, my whole uniform went up.
嫌な匂いの煙を立てながら燃え溶け、皮膚にへばりついてさらに燃え続ける。炎の下が首筋をなめ、耳を焦がし、髪の毛にまで燃え移り始めた。私は必死で首を振るが、火は消えてくれない。私が暴れるのが気に食わなかったのか、男のもう片方の手がひたりと顔に張り付き、一瞬目の前が真っ白になった。後頭部が床板に叩きつけられたらしい。尾骨が潰れたのがはっきりとわかる。大量の鼻血が飛び散ったけど、もちろんそんなもので火は消えてはくれない。そして私には朦朧としていられるような時間も与えられなかった。男の手が 落ちていたハンマーを拾い、その焼けた鉄の金槌の部分を顔に押し付けてきたからだ。熱したフライパンに生卵を落としたような音がして、今までとは比べ物にならない灼熱感が顔面を襲った。一瞬で視野の半分が真っ暗になった。手が見えない。焼き潰されたせいだ。顔の皮がただれ、ブツブツと泡立つのがわかる。肉も焦げる。奇妙に香ばしい匂いが鼻腔を刺激する。男は私以上に炎に包まれながら眉一つ動かさずハンマーを持ち上げた。ベリベリと私の顔の皮を剥がしながら。男は何の考えもなく一つの作業を行うようにハンマーを振り上げ、私の顔をめがけて振り下ろ。そうだ、アルコールランプ。なんだろう、いい匂いがする。
It was the same sort of smell one might catch while walking past a ramen stand.
そういえばお腹すいたな。千早、聞こえてる？もし聞いてたらお願い、忘れちゃダメだよ。誰？女の子の声だ。泣いてる。何があっても絶対諦めないって約束したよね。ナナや光見つけてここから逃げるんだよ。怖くても寂しくても自分の身は自分で。千早、聞いてる？私もうあんたを守ってやれないからさ。頑張るんだよ千早。何よ。熱い熱いよ。嫌だ、助けて。お母さん、死にたくない。やだ、熱い、苦しいよ。
What was happening to her? My mind had been in a rather hazy state, but this poor girl's terrified screams, as if someone were tearing her heart out, brought me back to reality. I realized that my hands and feet were bound to a chair, and I was facing another young girl who was similarly bound and writhing in pain. She was wearing a school uniform I didn't recognize, so she must have been brought here from some other junior or senior high school. Were it not for the uniform and the voice, I might have had a tough time determining gender, as her face looked neither male nor female, young nor old. It was simply too burned to discern anything at all, from the top of her head down to her neck, and even halfway down her torso, she was thoroughly charred. She'd essentially been browned, and virtually all her hair was singed off, not unlike a Peking duck hanging outside a Chinese restaurant. Her skin was thoroughly cracked, with bits of pink flesh oozing through here and there. And her eyes looked blank, cloudy and watery, like the bottom of an order of sunny-side-up eggs, only her teeth remained relatively intact. I have no idea how much time passed after that. For a while, the only real sounds were her chair rattling as she shook and her murmurs of agony. Then all that stopped, and the girl fell silent. Considering where she'd been burned, I suspected her lungs must have given out in the end, though really, it could have been any of a number of things.
何なの？何なのよこれ。
My mind was a blank slate. I was beginning to lose my grip on reality, and may have even laughed a little. I was in a home ec classroom, maybe? A science lab? And all around me were arms, legs, heads, and other body parts, all simmering in pots and pans. None of it seemed real. It was like I was watching some bad horror movie on TV, except there was odor and heat, and both were really getting to me. I was getting nauseous, but not from the smell. It was instead from the thought that this aroma of human flesh boiling and frying was making me hungry. As I fought to hold back my fear and hunger-induced vomit, I suddenly sensed a pair of eyes coldly staring at me. I looked in the direction from which I'd felt this sensation, and saw before me a little girl in a red dress, just standing and watching.
いい時に目が覚めたのね。ちょうどあなたの番が回ってきたところよ。
やだ、やだ。まさか冗談の。
The little girl lifted a frying pan from a nearby gas burner and brandished it in her right hand. Steam rose from the hot pan, and I could see bubbling oil spattering all along its surface.
あなたはどんな歌を聴かせてくれるのかしら。
I could see the expression on her face clearly now. Mischievous, hungry, and positively jubilant, without even a trace of sympathy or remorse.
振り返ったらどうなるって言うんだ。
森重
山本さん、袋井君は？
わからない。さっきまで一緒にいたけど、なんか斧持ってるやつに追いかけられて逃げてるうちに。
そうか、心配だな。無事だといいが。あ、君も怪我をしているじゃないか。
私は平気。この血は私のじゃないから。それよりやっぱりヤバいよこの学校。さっきのやつがきっとここに迷い込んだ人たちを殺してるんだ。
僕はそいつを見てないから何とも言えないな。
私怖いよ。一人じゃ絶対私も。
よかったら一緒に来るかい？
いいの？
まあ構わないよ。
Yamamoto, overcome with relief, suddenly grabbed hold of me.
ちょっと。
ごめんね。森重君は鈴本さんだっけ？彼女いるんだったね。
そういうんじゃない。なんていうか妹みたいなものだよ。
森重君みたいなお兄さんがいたら退屈しないだろうな。
そうかな。どっちかっていうと退屈な人間だと思われることが多いんだけどな。特に同世代からは。暗いな。山本さん？
ちょっと待って、明かりつけるから。
なんだこの廊下。やけに。そうだ、本館でもこんな場所が。
暗くて寒いね。
なあ、引き返そう。これ以上は危険だと思う。
でももう来た道がないよ。
しまった。そうだ、山本さん、あのアルコールランプを。
あれはなくしちゃった。でもろうそくならあるから。
そんなものじゃ。
あそこに部屋が見えるよ。行ってみよう、森重君。
待て、危険かもしれないだろう。様子を。すまない。怪我は？
平気だよ。
誤解しないでくれよ。俺は いや、僕は。
それより少しお話ししない？
何を言って。
私のことは嫌い？しげに。
お前、誰だ？
誰だと思う？しげに。
やめろ。
Don't call me that. I tried to pick myself up off the floor, but she grabbed me tightly by the wrists.
話せ。なんで俺のことを、眉のことを知ってるんだ。
I struggled with all my might, and in the process I inadvertently slapped Yamamoto, or whoever this was, square in the face.
痛い。女の子に乱暴するの？しげに。
The skin from Yamamoto's face began peeling back, and a little girl's face burst out from within, covered in blood and muscle tissue. I don't even know how it's possible, but black hairs burst out from the Yamamoto suit next, spreading across the ground like a black wing unfurling. Immediately, a musty smell began permeating the air, and I became aware of all the body parts around me. Hands, feet, entrails, and a veritable lake of blood.
お前はいつから。眉をどうした？
どうしたんだろうね。しげに。しげに。しげに。よく泣くスズメだったよ。今は物静かな。自分の目で確かめるといい。
まさかそんなバカな。
私はお前を見ていたよ。面白い。見込みがあるやつだってね。たまにお前みたいなのがいる。この学校と相性のいい変わり種がね。
何なんだお前は。一体俺をどうするつもりなんだ。
怯えているのかい？無理もない。だけど分かってるよ。お前の恐れの対象は生きた人間の死ではない。自分自身の死のみだ。
話せ。俺は
話してやろうとも。歩いていけ。あの扉へ。校舎が案内してくれる。お前が探しているあの子のところへ。
眉。
楽しみだね、お前の反応が。つまらなかったらすぐ殺しちゃうからね。
True to her word, the girl let go of my wrists. Her body then began sinking into the floor, little by little, until there was nothing left of it. It was as if she were lying along the shore as the tide came in and slowly rose above her body. Or maybe the school just swallowed her up. The only things that remained of her were Yamamoto's school uniform and that face mask made from her skin.
これは夢か。それとも俺はもうとっくに頭がおかしくなっているのか。いや、だとしても俺は眉に会わなくてはならない。あいつは生きている。そうに決まっている。眉、今行くぞ。
Savoring the moment.